Welcome, survivors, burnout community, and those just interested. It's Kelly Buboltz, trainer, author, speaker, and your burnout prevention mentor. Burnout is not taboo. It's our reality in this chaotic, fast-paced world. But we're not going to let it drive the narrative to our stories. We're going to do something about it. So let's dig in. Behavioral science to drive motivation in your workforce can actually be a catalyst in burnout prevention and engagement and attracting top talent, because you're placing people into their energy zones, into their flow. And you know my style, my business model is about energy management, workforce energy management. When you can honor that, when you can feed the need, people aren't complaining about salaries and benefits if they're paid fairly already. The drama's reduced, turnover's reduced, because they actually enjoy what they do. They enjoy the committees they're on, the functions that they're completing every day, and the team that supports one another because they're all in their energy zones. So I want to go through the 6 categories within DISC behavioral science in which you can find out employees' internal motivators and feed that needed. You can place them on certain project teams and certain committees and certain functions that feed their natural energy, in which they love what they do. And sometimes, coming from 2 decades in HR, you would try to hit the mark to make an employee happy and they're still unhappy. And then they ask for something over here, and then you do that, and they're still unhappy. And now there's certainly some unhappy people, but in most cases, employees just don't know what they don't know. They don't know what internally motivates them. And when I took my DISC assessment, it made so much sense to me. It made sense why this committee I wasn't vibing with, and this committee, regardless of the impact we were making, I was enjoying tenfold. I couldn't wait for our meetings. And this function was draining for me, but this function was amazing. It's all about internal motivation, what drives me inside. And when I saw my DISC report and my internal motivators, it made sense that I could have been feeding my energy. So this self-awareness of your own motivators was a game changer for me, because then I could start placing myself in functions, in committees, in project teams that feed that energy. I could start my burnout recovery plan in routines and habits that also feed those internal motivators. And it was a little less draining. So let's go through the 6 just briefly. During our workforce training, when we roll out DISC, I do go through this in a little bit more detail so employees and leaders know how to apply these techniques and this behavioral science tool into practical action plans, into their operation. So the first one is knowledge. Knowledge is, how do you analyze? How do you move forward with that information? And there's 2 sides of this spectrum on internal motivators, and they're all a spectrum. So it's not just this or that. There's some in between. So on this side is instinctive. They are using past experiences. They're using their intuition to make decisions and move forward. Over here is intellectuals. So these are people that are driven by opportunities to learn, to acquire knowledge. And so when you know this, I'll just give you a quick example. You have instinctive people that don't need to go to a bunch of conferences, but they might want to mentor others. You want people like that training classes, or training the next generation, or training the people in the new software, right? Because they have this instinctive experience knowledge with all of those things. And then you have intellectuals that want to research and learn and go to those conferences and know what's the best thing. And they can also bring that back and be a mentor and train classes. But there's 2 ways of knowledge that they're driven by. So know when an employee is instinctive, that maybe they don't want to go to all this learning, right? They want to have the experience. They want to take that experience and teach others. And then you have the intellectuals that actually want to research and go to classes and learn and go to conferences and then bring that back. So which side of the spectrum is your employees on? That's knowledge. Now, the next internal motivator I want to talk about is utility. So this is how employee kind of sees ROI, return on investment. And this one is always a hard one when we're going through training, because employees feel yucky on one side and not the other. So the different sides that I want to talk about on utility on how they see return on investment, how they see talent and resources being used. They're either selfless, which means they're completely driven by completion of the task. That they want to get it done. They want to do it well. They have little expectation for people to return anything for them, right? They are just doing it to do the task. Selfless. Resourceful is on the other side, and this is where people feel icky, but I don't want you to feel icky. These are people who are driven by practical results, all right? That they are doing things because they want to maximize efficiency. They're doing things because they see the return on investment. They're doing things because the talent and resource and energy that they're using is being used well. So here's what this can look like, and this is specific to my DISC assessment. Selfless. I feel like I'm very selfless. I give a lot. I'm obviously helping the burnout community from my own experience, trying to help others to not have such a tragic and trauma-filled experience with burnout, that we're going to prevent it. We're going to honor our energy. But I'm actually resourceful in my internal motivators. And that doesn't mean that I'm using people. It means that I'm going to do things in which I want a return on investment. I want people to use the tool and move forward. So I'm not going to do a tool or present a tool or go into a gig or a client program just to do it. I want them to move forward. I want change. So the ROI has to be there. So I've moved away from clients that I'm just a checklist on their wellness initiative. I want clients that want to change, that want to move their workforce forward in changing times. So I'm actually resourceful, and that feeds my cup because the ROI is there, right? Change is happening. So I don't want you to feel icky if you're more of a resourceful person, because you're not using people. You just want to see change. You want to see a result at the end. So that's utility. That's the second category within internal motivators: selfless and resourceful. The third one is surroundings. So how are you going to find balance in this world or with your natural resources that are presented to you? So how are you reacting to these surroundings? And that's the third internal motivator. On one side is objective. So these are people who are driven by functionality. They're driven by objectivity of their surroundings, that they know what they're going to get. So they're driven by objectives. And then you have this side, which is harmonious. And these are people that are driven by the experience. They're more subjective viewpoints, and they can find balance in that. And a great example I have of that is conferences. So as a speaker, I'll go to conferences, and there's people that I'll talk to after my program, and I'll ask them about their favorite part of the conference or their favorite speaker, and just seeing how their whole experience is. And there's people that are objective, and I can totally see the behaviors come out, that they're internally motivated, that they went in with an objective and they received it, or they went in with an objective and they didn't receive it. They'll be talking about the functionality of the conference and how it was easy or not easy. So they're very objective driven. And then you have people that I talk to after the conference, and they're harmonious. So they're talking about all the different people that they meet, or the theme of the conference. They'll be talking about just the flow and the energy of the whole vibe of this conference. And so you can see these two behaviors come out in events a lot on how internally they're motivated by surroundings. So again, when you think of understanding other people's behavior, if you truly want to meet people where they're at and where they thrive, where their energy thrives, are they objective or harmonious? Because then you can feed that need. Now, the next one is others. So this is where people want to assist others, that they want to reduce conflict or help in this world. And again, I don't want you to look negatively on either of these ones either. It's just how you're internally motivated. So one side is intentional. So that means that you assist people for a specific purpose. And it might not be like, self-centered. It means that you can help someone with Excel because you know Excel. Like, the specific purpose that you can help them with. It's not just for the sake of being helpful or supportive. You know that you can help here because you're talented there, because you have a skill set, because you can provide value there. So specific purpose. You're very intentional with how you can help others. And then there's this side, which is altruistic. So that means you're just driven to assist others You just get satisfaction out of helpful or supportive, regardless of the specific purpose that you go in for. So intentional is more specific purpose. Altruistic is you just want to support and help people. Overall view. The next one is power, and this one is your influence on people. This one is how you influence others or the passion to achieve power. And again, don't look at this negatively. It's an internal motivator. So on one side, you're going to have the collaboratives. So these are people who are driven by a supportive role. They love contributing, and they don't need a lot of recognition. They need little need for that. And then on this side, you have more of the commanding. And these are people who are driven by status. They like position titles, recognition, and they want control over personal freedom. Now, that's an important one because I think sometimes people see commanding as negative, but sometimes they just want personal freedom to achieve something. They want personal freedom to get a result and have that control. So you can already see where certain positions can line up as you start talent management, as you start recruiting candidates, that them taking this DISC and the internal motivators can fit within positions, and other positions you're missing the mark. So here's a great position that commanding would be important is sales, right? If you have a salesperson that's collaborative, they want to be the supportive role. They want to be contributing. They don't need a lot of recognition. Okay, that works in certain sales roles. But if you want them to be those salespeople that are on the road, getting new business, those hunters, right? They have that internal motivation to get things, to get new clients, to get more business. Collaborative is not going to be your candidate. Commanding will be, because they're driven by recognition and control over that personal freedom. They want results. They want their actions to be linked with results. And so someone with a higher commanding internal motivator is going to be a good hunter salesman. If you're looking for the farmer salesman, right, someone that just manages accounts and those relationships, you want more of the collaborative, right? They're not going to be pushy. They're not going to be as road warrior, but they're going to feed that internal motivator. Now, what I've seen in sales is when you don't know people's internal motivators and you push them one way or another that are opposite of their internal motivators, they slowly drain. So say you have a collaborative salesperson and you're pushing them to be a hunter in sales. That's not their motivation. That's not their internal. They're burning themselves out because it's not their style. It's not their work style, right? They want to establish relationships and grow those relationships and farm those relationships. Same with commanding. If you have a commanding internal motivator salesperson, a hunter, right? They're driven by this status recognition and ROI of results with their personal freedom, their actions, and you stick them in a farmer role, they're going to slowly die because they want it, and you're squishing that energy. So this is why it's important to not only map out energy in each position, but mapping out internal motivators that would be a good fit for the skill sets you're looking for, because the right candidates are out there, and we know the cost of a bad hire is expensive. So when you can energy map, what does this position look like? You can match it with people's internal motivators and feed that need. And the last one, the sixth one, is mythologies. So this is how you pursue a system, how you pursue your tasks, your functions in life as a person. And again, don't take this negative. It's your internal motivators. Understand them and feed the need. One side is receptive. So this is people who are driven by new ideas. They are driven by new methods. They are very receptive to what's going on in the world and ready to hop on. They want to hop outside of the traditional defined system for living. They'll be the first to trial a new type of task, a new app, a new system, because they're receptive to it. They want to try it out. And then you have structured. And these are people who are driven more by traditional approaches. They want proven methods. They want to know the steps that are coming. And they want a little bit more defined system, a routine for a living. And I see this a lot in change management. And I'll ask a client that's going through change, either growth or layoff or maybe acquisition. And I'll say, do you do DISC? And they'll say, no. I'll say, do you know how much change management we can do by using people's profiles? Because if I know that this team that's going through big change The receptives are going to hop on this change curve much faster than the structured, because the structured are routine. The structured wants to know what's going on next. What's step 3, 4, 5? The structured have a defined system of living that we are going to shake up. I need to spend more time with the structured internal motivators. And so when you can do that, right, we're not just focused on receptive. And what I see in clients that don't have a tool around their employees' behaviors and they're going through change is they see receptives and they see these people moving through the change curve, and then they see these people structured and say they're stuck. They need to get on board, get on the train, or get out. And I try to back them up and say these are structured internal motivators. They want a mythology to the madness. And so we need to give them that, and they will get on the change curve, but we're not giving them that grace. We're not honoring where their energy is. So when you know receptive and structured, you can actually enhance the change curve to go faster. It can be more lively. It doesn't have to be so daunting and draining for everyone because you know how to feed their energy. Receptives are on board. You need to give them information. Structured need to know what's next, what's not changing in their routine, how can they play a part in these routine changes so that they know what the new mythology will be, so they can establish a new approach. And when you can feed that need, again, the energy flows instead of drains. By understanding the internal motivators, the driving forces in your workforce, you can not only talent plan, you not only hire the right candidates for the job, but you honor people's energy. You stay away from the drainers and you feed the need. You energy map towards where their internal motivators are so that they're not confused on why they're not happy, so that they're excited to come in the day. By hitting the 6 internal motivator categories of knowledge and utility and surroundings, others, power, and mythologies, you can feed the energy. You can have more engagement and less turnover. It's a natural burnout prevention technique using behavior science. By understanding our own internal motivators and understanding other people's internal motivators, feeds workforce energy management.
I know you're not lazy. Most people in burnout are high performers, those serving others before themselves. Don't discount this step today, the action in which you focus on your self-growth. Piecing together the puzzle is half the journey. Rediscovering yourself, energy, and establishing new habits is the other. Do not underestimate the untapped inner strength inside you. Explore more resources on my website to move from zombie mode back to liveliness. See you soon.